Yeah, no, there's always, obviously, what happened last year, it sucked. It was very tough. I'm glad that the timeline was what it was and I was able to be good for week one. But yeah, it's definitely one of those things that you got to take into consideration going into preseason and everything. So I know me and Matt have talked, and I think the plan is to play some limited role this week and see how it goes going forward. But that's always, something that you just got to be smart when you're out there, trying to avoid taking hits, things like that. But it is football.
So it's safe to say you play a little differently if you're going to play in a preseason game, you're actually trying to play a little different than you would in the regular season?
Yeah, I think the main thing is to stay healthy. Obviously, avoid taking hits. If you get into a scramble situation, definitely not take any hits outside the pocket, anything like that. But really, it's just about being smart, trying to get the ball out of your hands, find those completions, put together a good drive.
Can you undo some of your footwork work that you've done this year and go back to the fall-away jumper if necessary?
Oh, you might have to. You hope you're not getting any pressure like that. But like I said, if you're trying to avoid a hit, whatever it takes to get the ball out, throw it away, so you might see it. We'll see.
I know Matt was saying this week he thinks players benefit from playing at least a little bit in the preseason. It helps them early in the season. Do you like playing in the preseason if you're getting at least a few reps? Or?
Yeah, no, I think it's always good. I think it gets you in the right mindset. It just gets you back in that real game feel. Obviously, we've been going against each other in practice to be able to see, new looks, a new defense, different guys out there. I think it's all good stuff that just gets you in the right mindset going into week one.
How does that compare to like playing in a joint practice in terms of preparing you?
Yeah, I think they're both a little different. I think joint practices are great because I think you see a lot more coverages, a lot more pressures, things like that. The teams want to show, where I think in the preseason games, it's a little bit more basic. Don't want to show too much, so you kind of know what you're getting in the games. Where I think practice is definitely, a real game atmosphere in terms of the concepts and pressures, things like that you're seeing from a defense.
Okay, so you check to see if Aaron's playing?
I haven't checked. I have not
You
checked.
haven't texted him or anything to make
Yeah, I haven't checked. We'll see. We'll be finding out soon.
Speaking of, I know Tom prepares you for all these. Have you seen this clip of Matt LaFleur talking about how you're the best to ever do it, that he's been around at the line of scrimmage setting protections? Have you seen that?
I haven't seen it, no.
You've heard about it, I presume?
Yeah.
Okay.
Tom, let me know about that.
So how does it feel that the student has surpassed the teacher, and that he puts you, he had a chance to say that Aaron was still better, and he did not. So what does that tell you about how far you've come, and what does that mean to you that he would say that?
Man, that's great. I think obviously appreciate Matt, saying stuff like that. And, it's something that obviously, like he mentioned protection stuff. Like, that's something I've worked at, and, we've gone, and me and Matt together put a lot of work in just communicating on stuff. And obviously he's got a big part in that of, my development and getting me better, and us being on the same page with stuff. So I think, anytime you can say something like that is very cool to hear.
Where do you think you were in that department coming out of Utah State, and even a couple of years, when you were a backup?
Protection stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's probably the biggest jump I've made since being here. In college, we didn't do anything. We didn't handle protections. Like, we threw hot. If we got pressure, we didn't make any changes to the line of scrimmage. So getting to the NFL, that was the biggest kind of test for me, the biggest area where I just had never done stuff like that. So obviously, I think being able to sit behind Aaron and see just the way he was able to control the line of scrimmage, see pressures, make protection adjustments, and pick stuff up was next level. And it gave me something to build up and to see and be like, man, that's what I want to be able to do. That's something that I had to put a lot of time in practice and scout team, obviously getting my opportunities in the game to be able to understand what I have to work on to get better at. But it's definitely the area I've probably came the farthest in.
Do you think Matt trusts you more, not just in protection, but just with doing anything that you want to do, and do you think he'll let you even do more as you go into this season?
Definitely. I think trust is something that's earned. And I think the more reps I have, the more time we have together, you just keep building that stuff. And he keeps, he'll give me more opportunities to show that I can go do the right stuff out there and make the right decisions, get us to the right plays. And it's something that, if you keep doing the right stuff, he'll keep trusting you more and more with that stuff. So if you're doing it wrong, then, that trust kind of goes away. So it's something that is earned, and you got to keep doing it every day, but it's definitely grown.
With the protection adjustments, is Gannon testing you maybe more this summer than you've seen? I know you've been the starter with Joe Barry half and now JG as the defensive coordinator. Are you getting tested more in that way than you have before?
Definitely. We're seeing a lot of great stuff throughout training camp that JG's throwing at us. A lot of different pressures, a lot of exotic coverages. I think they're doing a great job kind of disguising stuff, holding stuff till the snap. It's testing everybody's rules. It's testing the O-line and pass pro. It's testing the running backs to make sure their eyes are in the right spot, quarterbacks, receivers to make sure we're seeing stuff, doing all the little things right. Where I feel like, in this time too in training camp, different coordinators we've gone against, that's the time where they kind of open up their playbook as well. They try new things, try new pressures. So you always know in training camp you're going to see a lot of stuff. But JG, it's just such an exotic defense. You see so much stuff, and he does a great job just making stuff look similar. So definitely test your rules.
Jordan, did your responsibility with protections increase when Elton went down and then you brought in a new center? And I assume Elton knew a lot about protections, and you guys were probably on the same page. Then Sean comes in. Did your responsibility change after that a little bit?
I wouldn't say my responsibility changed. I think like you mentioned, Elton, he's been around. He knows, inside and out the playbook, the calls. I think when Sean took over, he's also a guy who's played a lot of ball. He's played at guard. So he knew all that stuff just as well. I think for centers, obviously in pass pro, they're getting up, they're making all of the starting calls. And so for my job, it's really just overriding stuff if I see pressures coming, making adjustments to be able to pick stuff up. So for me, nothing really changed. I think just making sure everybody's on the right page and communication kind of pre-snap. That stuff picked up, being able to hear what Sean's calling and, if I need to make any adjustments, making those. But it all stayed the same when we switched over.
Do you have a preference for how many series you play on Thursday? If you do play, is one enough? I know, in Cleveland, you only played that one series. Last year you played two. Does it matter to you? Do you need 1, 2?
Man, I think I like playing one series, but I think it always comes down to how good you execute when you're out there. Obviously, the goal is always to play one drive, go down and score a touchdown, and you're good. Something happens, you might go 3 and out, and you're not feeling as good about that drive. So there's things that come up in the game. Obviously, you want to go out there and put your best foot forward. But I don't think you gain anything or lose anything if you play more or less. I think it just comes down to being confident, going out there, putting a good drive together. And if not, I think everybody's going to feel like, hey, we need to go back out there. We left something out there on the table.
Have you talked about a number that you have in mind at least?
No, we haven't talked about that yet.
Jordan, we obviously you played against Aaron last year when you guys played in Pittsburgh, but he's made it very clear this is his last go-round. I'm just wondering, when you kind of look back at your time together and then his departure, we've talked about how his ascension to the starting job was a crazy summer and it wasn't for you. How much did that help that you were just able to kind of take over and there wasn't controversy and there wasn't all that stuff that maybe he dealt with? Did you guys ever talk about that?
Yeah, throughout our time together, I've heard different stories, and Aaron's talking to me about his time coming up, and obviously how he wanted to be a little bit different in his approach with me, which is great. But at the same time, I'm going through my own journey. I wasn't here to experience some of the stuff he went through. So all I got is what I know and what I saw. And obviously I've mentioned it time and time again, but nothing but, great things to say about A-Rod and, my time being behind him and watching him and just how much I was able to develop and grow in my process seeing him. And then obviously, like you mentioned, the transition. I think for the organization, that's something that's never easy. I think for the players, it's not something that's never easy. A guy that's been here for that long and done so many great things. So it's some big shoes to fill. And for me, I just try to focus on being my best and doing the best thing doing the best job that I could for the team, and just focus on that.
Jordan, has it been?
What would you say is the number one thing you learned from him?
Man, I always say the consistency. When I was here with him, to be able to see, coming from college, you think you're good, you think you do a lot of good things, and then you see someone that just plays, out of this world every single day in practice. He's making the right reads on, felt like every play. He's making the right protection checks, just doing the right stuff day in and day out. And just how consistent he was, the stuff that he's doing in practice, it translates to the games. And I think that was my biggest thing, to be able to see and be like, man, there's a lot of growth and room to work on for me to be able to get consistently great. And I think that was the best thing I saw.
Do you feel like you're there yet?
No, I feel like that's something that you always got to grow every day. That's something that I'm still trying to work on to this day, of just being the most consistent player I can be, because there's always flashes, but I think you just want to be your best every single day. So I still think there's a lot of room for growth for me.
Okay, Jordan, when you look at just this offense, because of some of the injuries and things that you've been dealing with, is it tough to know fully, you could say, what you guys have right now, or do you still have a good, pulse and feel on where things kind of stand, just to stay with the overall offense?
No, I have a great feel for what we got, the guys we got. I know there's some injuries that happen, during practice, things like that. Guys miss a couple of days, which I still think is great for other guys to get those reps. That's literally how the season goes. Injuries happen, things happen, guys got to step up. And so I think to be able to get reps with other guys that, aren't getting the starting 1 reps, is just going to help us throughout the course of the season when things might come up. But with the guys that, are starting, like you said, maybe dealing with some injuries, I know what we got, and it's just about getting those guys back healthy.
Jordan asked you during minicamp who you thought would have a big year that we weren't talking about. You said Savion Williams. What have you kind of seen from him during camp? Are you excited about what he's been putting on tape so far?
Yeah, I think there's definitely been a lot of growth. I think he had one of his best days the other day. Obviously, Jay Reed and MG were both out, so like we just mentioned, that's when guys got to step up and you get those opportunities. It's definitely cool to see guys making plays, and a guy like Savion, I think it's just all about reps. Getting more reps, getting comfortable running every play, knowing what to do is huge. And so the more reps he gets, the more good things I'm seeing. So yeah.
Were you surprised how open Bo was on that trick play yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, it's a trick play, so you never know how those are going to go. But he was pretty open, so I think that's always fun when you're a quarterback throwing a ball to a guy that's got like 30 yards away from everybody else. Just hope that he catches it at that point. But yeah, trick plays, you never know. That one worked pretty well.
Is that bag going to be deep this year?
Trick plays? I hope so. I hope so.
2 more. Jordan, how do you assess the camp you've had? I know you're always one day better. I get that, but like the throw today to Sky, I know it was an incomplete pass, but Simpson's coverage is great. It's a tiny little window to get it to where you want, and it was right where it needed to be. How do you what have you liked about your camp, and what maybe have you felt like, okay, this has to get better before September 13th?
Yeah, I think as a whole offense, we've been doing some great things. I think the consistency, like we mentioned, is something we got to clean up. For me, I think a goal for mine was being able to come through, make sure I'm going to the right spot with the ball, and then it just comes down to accuracy at that point. And I think I've been doing a pretty good job of making sure, I'm trusting what I'm seeing and making the right reads. And I think at the end of the day, I've been making some good throws. Guys have been making some contested catches for us. And that's the part you want to see. I think there's still some consistency. There's been a couple of throws, some easy throws that, I've missed. And that's where it comes down to just trying to be your best every day and making sure you're not having those easy ones that you kind of let slip. And so I think as far as the goal of me just trying to trust what I'm seeing, making sure my progressions are on point and I'm going to the right spot, I think that's been a highlight.
Is there a point in camp where you guys stop learning the new installs and start perfecting them, or is there a certain point where that changes, where it's not as much learning and more just executing over and over again?
Yeah, we're at that point. All of our installs are in right now. The other day we wrapped up our last one, and that's where it comes down to now everything's in. And today is the day where you're just getting multiple different calls, and that's when guys, especially young guys, you gotta be able to lock in, because you're not going over the stuff the night before and then going out and run those plays. Everything's in, so you got to be able to focus and just know the playbook inside and out. For the older guys, the starters, obviously, that's where, like you said, it just comes down to perfecting this stuff, running these plays versus multiple different coverages, and just staying locked in and knowing what to do, which is all great stuff. That's how the season is, of course, but we're definitely at that point right now.
So then leadership-wise, are you a little harder on guys, young or vets, whatever it is, when things go wrong at this point?
I mean, definitely. You're always, especially guys that have been here, the leeway is always a little shorter on things we're messing up. But I think guys have been doing a great job. I think it's always little things, little coaching points that you can get better at. A guy might not have ran the route perfectly, but he still did a good job on it. But there's always little areas that you can improve on. And I think that's the biggest thing. And then, like you said, if we're messing up, simple stuff that we shouldn't be, that's where it's like, hey, we gotta really lock in right here.